Welcome back, everyone. So glad you are here. We are here for week 3 of Healing Hearts, and I'm just excited to talk over the homework a little bit and hear what Nancy has for us. So welcome, Nancy.
Thank you. Glad to be here again. So, Wanda, did you work on the homework? Do you have anything to share about it?
Um, yeah. So I always kind of have a running notebook, and it's just, it's just everything horse. And I kind of flipped through there and I was surprised I didn't even remember doing it, but I had a couple things written when I lost the paint horse, which he just went into a metabolic failure and he rotated, and that was that. But I had actually written down a few things, and I thought it was interesting last week when you told us what the homework was, but to do the journal and not go back and read it, as opposed to the letters that we wrote the week before, where we wrote and read and, disposed of, however. So I thought that was kind of interesting, that my point when he died was um, so much about why. Why did this happen to you? And it's just that dumbfoundedness. I just couldn't believe that he wasn't in the trailer when, my husband came home from the vet. So I thought that was interesting, because then um, when I wrote the letter a week ago, it was more about the things that I missed about him, that somehow my brain has resolved the why. And now it's just the actual companionship part of the loss. So yeah, I thought that was it was interesting to read that and then see what I had written. And now I feel like I need to kind of go forward, more forward with that now. So yeah, it was an interesting exercise. And it's
Good.
that's been I was 22. He was April of 22. And it's amazing how close to the surface that still is. I just, I could just have a sobbing fit right now. But, and I think I'm always, because I'm kind of that left brain introvert, I'm kind of stoic, but that kind of stuff, it's just right on the surface. So, anyhow, it's been an interesting week. So,
That's
Thanks.
super cool. Yeah.
Thanks for
I've definitely found just some different memories popping up, and then what was funny today, and did I forget? No, I didn't forget, but I guess it wasn't present in my mind, but I take my horses to an old folks home, and they have a memory care there, and they have just kind of the retirement home, and then they have a special memory care unit. And so I take my horses there, and that is a treat for everyone above. All involved. Everyone loves it. And I just today, a picture of my gelding popped up, and he had gone to that, and my friend held him, and then I had Georgia. But that was such a sweet memory. And my friend was the one who had him at her house as he was getting older and stuff. So it's funny how even memories, photos, when they pop up, that's special. Cause I was like, oh yeah. And just how much better he looked, it's nice to have those
yeah,
photos where they looked
yeah,
healthy. Cause I,
yeah,
I still remember him, like I felt bad when he died. Cause
yep.
I mean, I might maybe shoulda, coulda, woulda put him down a little sooner. I don't know. I mean, he was a pretty happy boy, but yeah, when he was healthy, he was just stunning, gorgeous, and he went downhill pretty quick. So that was a cute memory that popped up.
Yeah, I've
those-
been scanning photographs because I've got boxes of photographs that nobody ever looks at. So scanning them, and then up there, I'm going to put a big monitor and just let them roll. And
Yeah,
I was working on that today because my Google Photos thing is full and they're going to shut off my email. They're threatening me with dismemberment. And so I thought, well, I'll go through these real quick. And it's like you said, there was a series of 4 or 5. We were trail riding, which I don't do a lot of. And we were about 40 minutes east of here up in the bluffs, and kind of just, I don't remember the day specifically, but there's a bunch of us and I'm riding him, and he's such a cute little guy, has his ears up, and he's always, left brain extrovert, always into something. And I just thought, oh God. And that's the same thing. How great he looked. He's all slicked off for the summer. And so, yeah, stumbling across those photographs, because I don't know that I would go looking for them, because I was kind of thinking about the photo album, and I thought, well, I'm doing this other thing with photographs. I thought, well, maybe I'll get around to doing that. But then when I just happened to find those, it was like, oh wow, he was quite the guy. So
Yeah, I kind of like it when those memories pop up, memories from a year ago or this day, in time, and all of a sudden there's me and Bunny when, God, that was a long time ago. But as she's not the only one, but she's the most recent one that popped up, and a really nice picture of me and her, and I'm like, wow, it was cool. I was gonna recap about the last 2 weeks. The big thing is that the grief that we feel is a normal and natural response to loss. That it's okay to cry. The grief is hard. Everybody grieves differently and has a different timeline. We never know how long we're going to grieve. Of course, we always grieve forever. It just isn't as sharp as time goes on. We don't think about them every day. But then we have the grief bursts where something pops up and it's like, oh yeah, and you cry. Time doesn't heal. It's what you do with time that heals. You have to take action. You can't just, wallow in it. You have to take action and make steps to follow your grief journey. And remember that the intellect, the left brain, doesn't solve grief. It's the right brain, the emotions that heal grief, the heart and emotions that help heal the grief. And you have to feel the pain in order to heal the pain. And you have to find ways to vent the anger and frustration in order to help you heal. And that's just part of it. And of course, we're here to help you find ways to heal. Now, last week, we talked about the 4 types of losses, which are the physical, actual loss of the pet. And the second was the loss of secondary activities. The third was the ambiguous losses, when you really don't know why they died, or if they are missing. What happened? Did they get stolen? What happened to them? Or one that just drops dead, like my little mule. He was just dead one day. Why did he die? He was only 18. So it kind of bugs me, although I think he ate a poisonous weed. I mean, what else? Why else would he die? Just boom. Then the 4th type of loss is a symbolic loss, where the pet has connected with another special time, special person, special activity. And I gave the example of the son that left the dog with his parents, and he goes to Afghanistan or wherever, gets killed, and then they still have the dog. And if they haven't fully grieved the son, then when the dog dies, they've got grief, and it's multiplied because they didn't walk the grief journey with their son. Today, excuse me, I wanted to also talk about anticipatory grief. That's when our pet is getting older or has a poor prognosis, and we start worrying because we know they're going to die and we're going to grieve. So we grieve already. But it's like any other grief. There's no timelines. There's no certain way to feel. There's no rules. It's different for every person. But it's a normal, integral part of loving a pet. and not wanting to face the future without them. So we take one day at a time with them, but it also provides an opportunity to plan ahead. We can do special things with them. Of course, it depends on whether it's a horse or a dog or a cat, the special kinds of things you're going to do. But, do some of their favorite things, spoil them, give them treats, give them their favorite treats, give them special food, food you might not ordinarily give them. And then, of course, you cuddle them and love them and extra special, just because you know that the end's coming close. It's also a time to take pictures and videos that you can treasure later, even though, as they get older, they look different. And when they start getting sick, then they look different. And it's not the same. Even when you go back, it's like, oh my goodness, I didn't know she was that sick, because we see them every day and we don't notice the differences. But still, take photos, take videos. If they talk to you, nicker, whatever, see if you can get that in a video too. And then if they've got special markings, you might want to take a close-up of their special markings, because someday you might want to make a tattoo or have a piece of jewelry made from that image, something to remember by. I told you before that I have a pendant with Bunny's hoof print on it and one with my dog Dolly's nose print. Of course, I knew to do it ahead of time. At the time of the loss of the pet, sometimes you don't think of those things unless somebody says, do you want a clay paw print or hoof print? Do you want to do this or that? Because we're grieving and we don't think of those things. So it's not bad. It's actually a good thing to do it ahead of time, or at least have the photos that you can make something from later. A lot of people get tattoos from a picture of their horse or dog or cat. And I wanted to talk about euthanasia for just a minute. One lesson I've learned is that just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. My prime example was a cat that had a tumor around his anus. And yeah, they could have operated on him, but he had like a 10% chance of survival. And then the recuperation would have been miserable, and I just couldn't do it. And he wasn't that old. So that he's taught me that lesson. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And then the other is that it's better to euthanize one day too soon than one day too late. Bunny's mother, she was down colicking in one nice day in the wintertime. And the vet just said, well, do you want to wait till it's cold and nasty outside, or do you want to put her down now? Because she was like 31 and I wasn't going to have her operated on. So I said, well, yeah, better on a nice day. And then I highly recommend being with your pet, horse, dog, cat, iguana, whatever, when they're euthanized. They have given us so much love and comfort and been with us in hard times. It's only right that we're with them. See, I'm going to get teary. When it's time for them to go on. Because you can be there petting them, telling them how much you love them. And I didn't think I was going to get teary. And they go with you being the last thing that they know. And then ask the vet, or okay, if it's a horse and you've got, you're going to have a removal company come and get the body, then tell them that you're going to need time. They don't need to be there at 3 o'clock when the vet's going to be there. They can be there at 3, you decide. It can be at 3:30 or 4 o'clock, whenever. So you have time to spend with your horse. Or if you're at a vet clinic with, say, your dog, tell them you're going to need time. You need to say your goodbyes. And normally, I've got a lot of experience with veterinary clinics, for my profession. Normally they'll let you be unless they're getting time to close, and then they might come in and gently ask you, finish up. But sometimes we need that time with our pets. The other thing is that if at all possible, let your horse or dog or whatever, let the other one see him. Our mule Seeker, he died at MU and at the university, and we brought him home, but we put him out in the dry lot and let everybody come and see him. And my horse Mom, she was down in the pasture, couldn't get up, and it wasn't the first time she'd been down, and she couldn't get up, and it was flat, so us helping her wasn't gonna help her get up, wasn't gonna make a difference. So the vet, come like at 11 o'clock at night, and so we didn't let everybody see her. And this actually gets into that other pets do grieve, but when we had her loaded in the trailer to go to the crematory, then I took Jetta out, which was her daughter, and I explained to Jetta that her mom was dead, and told her about that, but to please go in and tell the others what had happened. So she went in and went to her brother Chance, who's a mule, told him, and he turned around and went and put his face against the wall on the far side. And I have a couple other stories here in a little bit, and then our dog Jake, he was euthanized at home, and we laid him on the couch overnight. And the other pets, they don't always want to see because they don't want it to be real. Sometimes they won't go, but we had one cat that laid on top of Jake and did his thing. But yeah, he was right there. But anyway, it's important if the other pets can see that the one died. And we talked the other day, last time, about if you want to cut off part of the mane or tail to make a memento, but that's an individual decision. But if whatever, you tell the other pets that their friend died and explain to them like you would a child what happened, and that you're sorry, but you couldn't take care of them anymore. You did the best you could, and and reassure them that you will take care of them. They might worry about dying too, but reassure them that you still love them and you will be taking care of them. I had my first horse was a mule. Her name was Rosebud, and she had a horse boyfriend named Thermo. And when Thermo died, I wasn't actually here when he was put down, so I don't remember now if Rosebud got to see him or not. But she grieved terribly, and to the point I was really worried about her. And it took her about 3 weeks before she snapped out of it and went back to eating and doing normal things, but she had lost her boyfriend. It was pretty sad. I have one more story about talking to the pets and letting them know what happened. Because down at our business, we ended up with, Kitty's name was Miss Kitty. And her mama died, her human mama. And she was her pet, but the man moved and took the kitty with him. But she got out somehow, and she was a little bitty thing, and she made it back home to where she lived before. And the neighbor recognized her and knew who she was, so she took her in, and she went to a vet, and we ended up taking her in at Rolling Acres, my business. And she was in a kennel, and she was sad, and she wouldn't eat, and she looked pitiful. And finally I thought, she didn't know what happened. So I sat down and explained to her that her mother died, and that her daddy couldn't take care of her anymore. He was going in a nursing home, and that she was here with us, and we were going to love her and take care of her, and everything was going to be fine. So I did. Nobody explained to her, and she perked right up and started eating. She even, her fur got, we had to brush her, but her fur got to where it looked nice. but they know and they grieve just when they don't know what happened. Let's talk about an ambiguous loss. You know, another point is if you have your pet cremated, show the pets at home the cremated remains. I don't mean open it up and show them, but show them the urn. Somehow they know who's in there. Don't ask me how, but they'll know that their buddy's in there. And it helps. It helps them with their acceptance. Anyway, that's my stories on euthanasia and pet grief. You do need to explain it to them what happened and reassure them like you would a child. Oh, and speaking of children, I'm on to children and grief. You know, the death of the pet is sometimes the child's first experience with death. And it's your first opportunity to teach them about coping with grief and pain that normally accompanies, you know, the joy of having another living creature. It can be a traumatic event for any child. Many kids love their pets very deeply and may not even remember a time in their lives when the pet wasn't around. And they can be a confidant for the child, you know, just like we do sometimes with our horses when we go out and hug them and tell them what's wrong, you know, what's wrong in our life right now. So they have deep attachments to their pets that the parents don't always recognize. And then the child might blame themselves for the pet's death. I mean, unreasonably, but they might. And they get scared that other people or animals that they love might leave them also. And how you handle the grieving process with a child can affect everybody. I mean, I said the first day about how we in the Western world aren't accustomed to talking about loss and grief because it's just off topic. I have a personal trainer, and she was telling her grandfather died not long ago, and she's told me about she's teaching her son, who's about 13, about grieving, and it's okay, and different releases, which I think I talked about the other day. If not, I'm going to talk about it some more. But I thought that's awesome. She's breaking the cycle, you know, because she's learned how to deal with loss and grief, and now she's teaching her son, and she's got 2 other children, and they're learning. And it was just amazing. I told her what a great mom she was for doing that. But then another thing is to tell the children the truth. Use words like dead and died. Don't say they went to sleep or they ran away, because then, well, they start worrying about what if they go to sleep? You know, are they going to not come back? Is mom and dad not going to go to sleep and not come back? Who's going to run away? You know, talk about them. And then when they learn the truth, it's because sometimes they will learn the truth. It's devastating to them when they got lied to. You know, actually, that happened to me as a child. My dog disappeared, you know, and then later I found out what happened. But they will grieve as deeply as adults, and adults need to recognize their grief and give them permission to express their grief. You know, younger children in particular will act out or be angry, you know, throw tantrums, you know, different behavior things because they don't know how to express their grief. But then it's typically short. The next minute they'll be back playing. But then they might have another grief burst of their kind. They'll often express their grief through behavior instead of words because they don't know how to talk about it. And it's always a good idea to tell teachers or counselors at school that there's been a death in the family, so they can understand, or should be able to understand, the behaviors that might show up.
I definitely found also that both my kids grieve differently. So
Yeah.
my Evelyn is very talks about it. She makes little memory boxes. She makes little crosses. She puts flowers together, you know, and talks about it. My son is very internal about everything, but we'll be, you know, in the car and we won't be talking about anything. We'll just be quiet. and he will bring something up. So obviously he was thinking about it. And so it's just interesting that you kind of have to understand that goes back to everybody grieves differently. And one way is not better than the other. So people are like that too. Some people grieve quietly and some people are just really outward about it. And sometimes I feel weird because I definitely handle grief different than a lot of people that I know. And so it actually makes me feel kind of weird that I'm not like sobbing and having a hard time on that day and doing a lot of stuff that you see people do. And sometimes I don't know if I'm making it up, but sometimes I feel like my friends kind of look at me like, why aren't you more upset? But I mean, it doesn't bother me that much, but I do know that I don't grieve the way a lot of people do. So it's kind of a strange feeling of guilt, like, oh, I know I should maybe be feeling differently or showing it differently, but I don't. So that's fine. And you can tell that everybody's just a little bit different.
Yeah, just accept yourself for the way you are, and don't let yourself think you're being judged by other people. They're probably not even noticing. How that is. But back to, we need to reassure the child of whatever age that that they didn't do anything wrong, they weren't responsible for the pet's death, and encourage them to ask questions if they have them, to communicate. And of course, you can communicate with the child so they know that it's okay. And also, if possible, while you're talking about making mementos, yes, allow them to make a memento of the pet if they want, whether it's a photograph, framed on the wall, or a paw print, or whatever they want to come up with. Let them do that in remembrance of their pet. And also allow them to be involved in any memorial service you might have, or a burial, or any services or that you might have. Let them be involved to whatever extent they want to be. Let them know that they're welcome to sing a song or say a prayer or just tell us about something they remember about their pet. Yeah, that will help them process the loss. And then don't run out and buy another horse or another dog or another cat, because that's teaching kids that things can be replaced, and they can't be. We can have room in our heart for another pet, but it's never going to replace the one we had. And we shouldn't set up a replacement society, where something dies and we run out and replace it. I had a lady tell me, my husband died, I didn't go out and get another husband. My dog died, I'm not going to go get another dog. Some people have to. They literally have to go get it. There's my cat. You see her up there? My big cat. Anyway, some people literally have to go get another pet. But again, people are different. And then I come to self-care. It's very important to care for yourself during the time of grief. Well, it's always important to take care of yourself. But it's really essential when you're grieving. Prioritize getting 7 or 8 hours of sleep a night. Take a nap if you need to recharge. Eat nutritious meals, and eat regularly. And it's so easy to eat junk food when you're grieving, but you need to focus on eating nutritionally. And it's okay once in a while to have some comfort food, but just don't make it the only thing you eat is for comfort. And then exercise. Excuse me. Exercise regularly. It is strange that some people that do have a phenomenal exercise routine, they stop exercising when their pet dies. It's really weird, but it's true. And so you're back to, it's very important is to eat right, sleep right, exercise right, stay hydrated, and I mean water. Coffee and soda pop and whatever aren't hydrating. And then there's the stress relief. And I'll talk about that some more in a minute, the different ways of stress relief, and you guys can share what you do. But it also helps to stick to a routine of going to bed at night when you usually go to bed, get up at the same time, eat meals at the same time you normally eat them. It just helps you internally, like keeping a routine. It gives you a sense of control again, where when something dies, we feel like we've lost control. So this gives us control again of regulating when we do things.
That would be a great tip for spouses also, to make sure that your spouse, if they're going through grief, are doing those things, because I think in grief, that would be really hard to be like, okay, I have to eat right, I have to go to bed now. But if
Yeah.
you're watching your spouse suffer, then you can help them out by making them a sandwich and then saying, come to
Yeah.
bed, darling, all that
Yeah.
stuff. That'd be a good tip to have for that situation.
Yeah, I smile because my husband will say, I'll be there in a minute. And, an hour later, he might come to bed anyway. It's a good point, though. I just had to smile at that. Yes, it's to encourage him to sleep at the normal time. Yes. Yeah, we have to take care of our spouses too, Um, but on ways to, take care of yourself. Oh, also another thing, get up and get dressed. When you get up in the morning, get dressed. Don't run around all day in your sweats or your PJs. I mean, there's a time for that. But part of the routine and keeping you moving forward is to get up and get dressed. And I have one lady that says, and put your shoes on. Well, I have house shoes and I have outside shoes. So I put on shoes, but they're house shoes. But it's that you're ready to do something, when you're dressed. Then there's other ways of, like dealing with stress is to meditate. And there's lots of guided meditations out there. Prayer, yoga, Tai Chi. I think we talked a little bit about this the other day. But humor's good. I have a cartoon book of Calvin and Hobbes, and I just love it because they make me laugh. And then some people will watch funny movies. Funny series on TV work too, but just a 2-hour movie or something that's funny. It helps you emotionally. And then you can go get pedicures and manicures. You get, take pampering yourself. Get massages, and adult coloring books are good too. You can, well, you know what they are. I don't have to explain, but they're good for expressing yourself in different ways. Did I talk about punching the pillow? Wanda's nodding her head. That's, like I said, you ought to be the only one in the house when you do it. But in fact, my personal trainer I was talking about, she read a book that had that in it. And I thought that, well, wasn't my idea, but it's great. Anyway, you take the pillow, like a bed pillow. I like them because they're big and softer normally. And you just start punching it. And it's amazing what emotions will come out. I mean, you can yell and scream and cry and cuss and all kinds of things. And then we did talk about this, didn't we? The punching bag, or at the gym, or the kickboxing, just even the machines, that they have set up where you lift things. You can release tension that way. I've had occasions where I just cleaned house. I mean, me cleaning house, because you're doing something and you're getting rid of energy, and it helps. Any physical activity will help release the tension and relieve stress. But how do you guys bring peace and calm to yourself in tough times? How do you guys release stress?
I have to say, after we lost those 3 horses in just a couple of months, I couldn't decide what to do with our barn, because now I had extra stalls, and I didn't want to put another horse, and I just, your mind just can't comprehend the change for some reason.
Yeah.
So we lost 1 in April and then 2 in June. And typically we strip the barn out every couple of years and uh, power wash and paint. And we hadn't done that long ago, but it was the year to do it again. And so we took I can't even remember. It seemed like it was a long weekend. I don't know if it was the 4th of July or not. But anyhow, we took all the feeders, all the panels, everything out, pressure washed the walls, pressure washed all the equipment, and then repainted the inside. So it kind of, it's like it's the same, but it's different. And then I was fine with moving the remaining 4 horses around into stalls that had been occupied. And I took all the stalls out on one side. So I just have this big open area to saddle. And in the winter, they can hang out. There's hay bags and whatnot. But
Yeah.
that was really cathartic to look at that space with a new eye and not expect to see, that gray mare in the end stall and, the paint horse next to her. It just took away that, I don't know, that resistance to change. And, it's a lot of work. There's no doubt about that. But, yeah, so we get to the end of that and the barn looks great. The horses are fine with I can't put those 2 geldings together because they play all night. So I've still got one old mare left. So she's the peacekeeper. So she's between them. But yeah, it was just, we got everything put back in. I had a friend came out and she power washed all the slow feeders and, all that. We did all the buckets and everything. And yeah, we got to the end of the weekend and it looked great and it smelled fresh. And it was kind of like I don't know, a new chapter, I guess. We were going to live this way now for a while. So yeah, that keeping busy, that has been a huge thing for me. And I don't let myself get on a brain roll about it and let it go on and on and on. It's like,
Yeah.
you can feel bad for 20 minutes and then you have to go do something. And I mean, I even put it on my calendar. It's like, okay, nobody's around from 12 to 12:30, so you can feel as bad about this as you want to feel. And then you have to get up and go do something.
Mhm.
And I found that to be pretty helpful too. And I thought that the anticipatory grief was interesting because I do have one 31-year-old mare left. And she's having a great summer, but it's not, the odds are not in her favor to make it through the winter. So, and I find myself doing those, little things like, what are you going to do when she's gone? And then you have to put those 2 geldings next to each other, that kind of stuff. So,
No, we'll leave an empty stall between them.
yeah. And then I feel bad about the guy that's down on the end because he doesn't really want to be on the end, but I had to put him on the end to keep him away from his cousin. And, but yeah, that was really cathartic to clean the barn up. And yeah, it was very helpful. And I love my open space now. And then like when we have an extra horse that has to be here, it's just panels and we just fold it out. It takes like 2 minutes. And then that horse is on one side of the barn, so there's no contact. And then mine are on the other side. So it's worked out. There was a few weeks there that whole mess was pretty hard. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it worked out.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. That is, you kept busy and you changed things so it looked different when you were done, and that was a relief to you, actually. Yeah.
I definitely will hit the gym pretty hard. I go to the gym a fair amount anyways, but a workout hits a bit different when you're thinking about stuff. So I take advantage of that. And then whenever I go outside, like I'll just, the thing with me is that luckily I have other animals, so I can go outside and animals always make you feel better, especially horses. So I'll go out and work with, the other horses, and that always is really healing. I think horses are very healing. So I'll use that. Or, like what you did, Wanda, I'm not super, anal about where everything's at in my barn. I'm just kind of like, hey. So it's nice to every once in a while get everything kind of organized and make it look good and clean like a clean person does. I'll do that for a little while and then back to my old self after that. But yeah, getting out there, cleaning the paddocks up, not my favorite thing to do. I know some people say it's relaxing, not for me. So I'll, do a deep clean on paddocks and stuff like that, or just kind of hang out. So yeah.
Of course, I do, some of my grief work, like the journaling and the completion letters, and sometimes you just have to do stuff. I mean, to be physically active, um, which is what both of you were saying in essence. There are other activities that we can participate in if we want, other ways that we can cope. We've talked about the letter and the journaling and the photo albums. Some people also make scrapbooks. I've seen some awesome scrapbooks in my time well, most of them were about dogs, but one of them was about a horse. And, they were artistic people who just did an awesome job making a scrapbook. There's a pet remembrance journal, which we do have a list of grief resources that we're going to be sharing. But on it, one of it is my pet remembrance journal, which I highly recommend. It's, it has suggestions on what to write about, but we always think we're going to remember everything, but we don't. So this gives you a chance to write things down, and you don't have to start at page 1. You can just open it to a page and see if that's something you can write about. But at the end, you've got a tremendous memento to your pet. And at the same time, it's therapeutic to write this stuff down. Then there's volunteering. You can volunteer at an animal shelter, and you don't have to take care of walk the dogs or clean the kennels if you want to. There's always something else that can be done, whether it's helping them with their social media, doing some office work, or working on fundraisers for them. I couldn't work at an animal shelter. I'd want to be adopting all of them. I'd have them all home. I can tell stories about that too. But I can't do it. That's how I ended up with Raven and one cat. Was like, anyway. But I can do other things for them, to help. Then of course there's the grief recovery groups, which you can do online or they're not so frequent locally, and that's something else I put on the resources list is about grief groups. And then there's always the talking to somebody that can relate to you, that can accept the way you feel and doesn't judge how you're feeling. And if you've got a friend or well, typically a friend that you can talk with about that, then that's great. But also the support groups are good too if you can find one. And some people will make things in remembrance of their pet. If you're crafty anyway, making pottery, quilting, crocheting. I know a lady that makes like hand towels, that you use in the kitchen that you put on the handle so you've got to dry your hands on it. Anything that you're crafty about, even making jewelry. I know a lady that makes jewelry, but they make them in memory of your pet, and then you can donate them to a rescue or a sanctuary to sell as part of their fundraisers, silent auctions or whatever fundraisers, or you can give them to a thrift store that donates their profits to rescues. Do you guys have any ways that you memorialize Aaron, you told about your daughter Evelyn making the things. Do you make something? Wanda, do you do anything like that?
I am not very handy. Uh, so I don't know. I always kept a little bit of tail hair, and I've got a big envelope or a baggie of it in the barn. And years ago, when I was finishing grad school, I had a gelding colic the day of my defense, and he died. Um, and I, one of the gals that I um, knew the vet, and they took a little bit of hair, and she had a bracelet made for me. So I always thought you know, I would eventually get around to doing that. We've kept the shoes off of a few of those. Jeremy made me some little flowers. Yeah, I don't, I had when oh God, you have horses for a lifetime. And so you have a lifetime of these experiences, I guess. But I had lost a thoroughbred mare, and I had a work friend who didn't know up from down about a horse, but she found this plaque, and oh my God, it looked so much like that mare. It was unbelievable. So I put that up. It's right there next to the door for the tack room. And it's like when I had her, she was at the racetrack. When I had her at the racetrack, she didn't eat very well. So we always hung her feed and her feed tub and everything outside of her stall because she's always looking around. And I put that up there, and now she's looking out the barn. It's like Claudia handed that to me. It's like, oh my God, I have a perfect place for this. So, I mean, I have a lot of maybe little things, just, I don't know. I don't sew. I don't, I'm not very handy in that respect, but yeah, I think I pretty much have something for all of them except for the paint horse. And I just can't, I don't know. I just can't, I'm just not there yet. Something will occur, and I'll get it done. And, but it's just not there yet. But I do think that kind of stuff is important. And I love that plaque. I walk by it every day and think about that horse. And yeah. And the same thing with the horsehair like or a bracelet for the guy that I lost when I was in grad school. I mean, it's like I don't wear that every day, but it's right there in the box. And some days it's like it just speaks to you. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, his name was Bruiser. It's like, well, today's a Bruiser day. So anyhow, I will say I thought your comments about finding someone to talk to were interesting because I'm not very, I mean, you wouldn't know about this group, but I'm not very sharing, I guess. We do have a little horse group here, and there's a truck stop a couple miles down the road, and we usually get together one Friday night a month, and whoever wants to come and have dinner just comes and has dinner, and we just talk about everything. And nobody knew that all of this had happened except for Jeremy and my vet. And I think my vet said something kind of accidentally because we all use the same guy. And so we get to that, we're all sitting down there having dinner, and there's probably 10 people at the table. And somebody says, "What happened to your paint horse?" And I just said, I had to euthanize him. And I did not elaborate. And so that went on for months, and I just would not really say anything about it. But I have a friend that lives in Colorado Springs, and she knows nothing about horses. She's highly allergic to everything. We met in grad school. I always tell everybody she's my girly girlfriend because she keeps her nails done. Her hair's always done. She always looks great. And then she has this friend. And Karen was the person I chose to talk to about that because I don't know why. Because there was no judgment behind it. There was no, I know how you feel, because nobody can know how you feel.
That's right. They can't.
Yep. And I talked to Karen about it, and she's very ethereal, the voices guide her. And so you never know what's going to pop out of her mouth. And actually, a couple kind of helpful things did pop out. But yeah, it was months and months before I talked, even in just, 5-word sentences to the rest of that group. I just couldn't share that. I just couldn't have somebody say, I know how you feel. I
Yeah.
just couldn't do that. So I think sometimes looking for that person who is kind of out of your box is a good way to go. Because my husband, he didn't know what to say. He just, I think like husbands do, right? They know you so well, they just can't, they just don't have the words either. So, but anyhow, thought that was interesting. A couple of them were kind of put out about that, but it's like, I just had to say, I just can't talk about it now. So
Yeah.
I didn't.
I think you need to be real careful of who you talk to be honest with you, because sometimes people, they might mean well, but they don't help at all. And some people don't know how to handle it. Everybody handles it differently. So generally, I don't say a lot when people talk to me about, you know what I do say? I say, listen, I'm not very good at this stuff, but if you want to talk, I'm here for you. That's what I say, because I don't have words. I hate it when people, and I know that they just mean well, right? I know that, but I hate it when people say, I'm sorry, and there's only like the 3 sentences that always get said. I don't like any of them. So I don't say any of those, but I will say like, hey, I am not good at this sort of stuff, but I'm here for you and I appreciate you. But if you need something from me, you tell me. And then like randomly, I brought over, I had a client of mine lose a beautiful stallion, that I was actually going to breed my mare to. Like he was a lovely being. And so I brought over, a bottle of tequila. I don't even know if she drinks, to be honest with you, but I was like, we're going to have some shots in his stall right now. I don't drink, I mean, honestly, it was just so weird, but I was like, do you want to do a toast to this horse in his stall? And she goes, yeah, can we pour 3 of them? And I go, we can do whatever you want to do. So I've never had shots over something like that before. Probably won't do it again. It was just something for her. And it was just random. So yeah, it's a tough situation. You need to protect yourself and your feelings, because it doesn't need to be worse than it already is by talking to somebody and they think they have all the words of wisdom that you're gonna need to hear. And it's the last thing you need to hear. So yeah, you gotta be careful.
I do have a list that I haven't sent, and here, oh, my husband let another cat in. He will cause trouble. Here he comes. Come on, keep going. A list of things to say and not to say to people. So I will bring that up on my computer and send it to you, Aaron, because it is good. It is a good thing. And you could say, you can say, I can't imagine how you feel. That's one of the things I said. Oh, I know how you feel. No, you don't. You're right, Wanda. Nobody knows how you feel. Anyway, I'll look that up and I'll send it to you, Aaron. The only thing I had left today was about, what have you done about funerals? I started with funeral services or memorial services, and I'm just going to read some. People have a celebration of life. We can do that for our animals too. We can have a memorial bench somewhere, set it up, have it engraved, in loving memory of Jetta, and have a bench. You can plant trees or bushes or flowers around your house that's in memory of your pet. You can have a memorial area in your house or your garden, just for that pet. I know people that have done that, set up quite nice memorial areas in their house for, well, I'm thinking of a horse. This lady really did a great job, but it can be done for any pet. And then the shadow box, like you mentioned, you can do a shadow box with little mementos in it, and write a eulogy for your horse. Where you always write an obituary, but a eulogy is more, to me, it's more personal than well, I read some obituaries that are pretty cool, but write a eulogy for your pet. I know we've talked about the tattoos, having tattoos, making things out of horsehair, jewelry with hoof print, paw print, nose print, a silhouette even of your horse or your pet. A nice side shot and just have it a silhouette of the horse. I guess I did have one more thing, and that was about afterlife experiences. Has anybody had their pet visit them after they're dead? I've got at least 3 experiences I could share if you want to hear them. One is my little schnauzer that I've talked about before. She went to work with me every day, and she loved bananas. And we would share a banana at 11 o'clock every morning. I'd have a bite, she'd have a bite. And she would start asking me for the banana like at 10 o'clock, but I don't know, we wait till 11. Well, I couldn't eat a banana for a few days after she died. But then I'm going to eat a banana. And I looked down and she was there. She was there, sitting there in her normal spot. And of course, the first time I cried. And then the second time she showed up, I was happy that she came back. Then my dog, Jake, he would always jump up in the bed and just root me. He's like 50, 60-pound dog. But he'd be right there in the mornings and he'd get a hug. Well, he came to me one morning and it was so real. He was there. And my husband came and I said, "Can you see Jake?" Of course he couldn't. And then Jake went away. It was so real. He was there. Now, not everybody experiences that, and I feel blessed that I did. But, in my time in my profession, I've heard different stories. People of their pets showing or hearing them. Well, you heard claws on the floor or just different things. But it does happen, and some people just wish for it, and it doesn't happen. They probably wish too hard. I don't know why, but it doesn't happen to everybody. So I was blessed to have 3 that I know of, right, that I can remember where my pets showed themselves after. Anybody else had that kind of experience? Nope. Okay, that's okay. So Aaron, that concludes my part tonight. Should we have a 4th session just to go over some of the resources? What do you think?
Yeah, I think we should go over that. And then this week, if you have any examples of some memorials, take a couple pictures if you're comfortable with that and share with some other people for, some examples maybe, or just to kind of show what's done. I'll take a picture of that little cross. Well, it's not little, the cross that Evelyn made, all my art I must have given to her because I have no artistic skill whatsoever. So I live through her in that area, but we can put those up on Facebook, and then next week we will go over a little review and just talk about anything that's kind of sunk in. Some final thoughts. We'll go over the resources and how they can help. And then also any other ideas that pop up during the week or any questions that people might have. And then, we'll probably have the group full next time, but we do need to talk about that we can't meet on Wednesday, right? So I'll put I'll put a message up on the Facebook about when the last one will be, and we'll just have a nice final get together. How about that?
Sounds good.
Good? Excellent.
Yep.
That's the plan. Well, thank you so much, Nancy, for all this information. It's fantastic. And I know this is going to be really helpful. If there's anything that you guys want to post on Facebook, do that this week. And then we will have a message out about when we will get back together for the final.
Okay. Very good.
All right,
Thank
great.
you very much.
Have a nice night. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.